Micah Mitchell, founder of Memberium. What is this, man? Memberships on autopilot, all the way from Utah. Welcome to the Sales Podcast. Finally, how the heck are you?
I'm doing well, man. I'm always happy to be talking to you.
Man, after almost 10 years next month, 617 episodes, you finally graced me with your presence. Why you been hiding from me, man? Was it I showered? I shower every Monday, whether I need it or not. So it can't be that.
Well, you can't hide your voice and face on these sort of things. So,
All right. But
no,
hey,
just kidding.
finally got you. So it's
I
cool.
love
So we've been running around the same Infusionsoft circles for years. But when did you start Memberium? I was looking here. It was like 9 years ago. Was it longer than that?
Just barely, yeah. So about 10 years ago is when we kind of got started. And I would say maybe 9 years ago is when we got our first paying customers. So maybe that's a better, thing to say when we got started.
Right. And so Memberium, as those listening can kind of figure out, but it's a membership site tool, right? For added onto WordPress.
It is, yeah. So it connects WordPress to either Keep, aka Infusionsoft, or ActiveCampaign, and soon to be other things. But yeah, it's basically to create membership levels and content control within WordPress.
Right. And how did you, I love hearing how people got started. Were you, a coder by trade? Was that your background, and how did you pick a membership site as an idea, and why did you focus on Infusionsoft back in the day?
So I'm not, trained in anything really. I actually didn't graduate high school. So I went to the University of Google, early on in the storied history of Google. And that's how I learned to make websites. And so I kind of first learned a little bit of website stuff, but I'm not coding fancy. I just more mean back then people wanted a brochure, like they just didn't have one at all, right? So anything was better than nothing. And then I came onto Infusionsoft because with websites, I was doing a little bit of e-commerce, kind of the early e-commerce. And so in 2006, I got Infusionsoft, Keep, and I was doing consulting for, I chose early on. I was fortunate. I don't know. I just made the right decision to focus on Keep because I had read a book that basically said, hey, stop trying to be everything to everybody and focus. It was like a Michael Gerber. I think it was Awakening the Entrepreneur Within, but it made me one night just think like, okay, I need to just say, I just do Keep websites, websites related to Keep. And that soon became Keep membership sites. And that soon became on WordPress. So like initially it was membership sites with Joomla and Keep, and some other systems, but it ended up there at WordPress. And just from so many people asking for the same thing. So it's not like I set out to make a software company. I was doing custom work and they just kept asking, hey, can you integrate WordPress to Keep? I want to build a membership site or a course or a community. And that eventually became a tool, but I made all of the mistakes getting here, as far as software goes. I sold it the wrong way and all that to finally kind of realize like, okay, this is the right way.
So 2006, you bought Infusionsoft, man. I got involved in 2008 and I was pretty early. So 2006 is super early. How'd you find it?
So, like I said, I was doing some e-commerce kind of stuff online, and I had a CRM that I was reselling, that was a super enterprise level. I mean, you had to write like strings of curl to run batches of billing and emails. It was all manual from a command line. And I was going to sell it to a customer, and they said, well, this other person is trying to sell me this other thing. And so I said, oh, well, let me check it out and I'll tell you, what I think between the two, basically. And it was Infusionsoft. And at the time I saw that and I just said, you should buy that. I'm buying that. And so I bought it. At the time I was doing a weird thing. I also had a landscaping company. So I pretty much bought Infusionsoft first for my landscaping company. And it was amazing for that. It did the recurring billing, it talked to the customers, it did all the stuff. So it was like a a weird use case for it at the time. And especially I was pretty young, and like you said, it was early on in Keep, but it worked out well for me for quite a while there.
So you hadn't yet focused. So you were doing Joomla websites and landscaping and CRMs and e-commerce.
Yeah. So I was just a user of Infusionsoft. Yeah. And then a few years later is when I focused in on it. And that's when things became, I guess you'd say, efficient, and like I got better referrals. It started to line up and make sense.
Yeah. So why'd you stop the landscaping business? You couldn't keep that as a side gig?
Well, so I was not a good business person then. One year, I had hired a lady to do our billing, and I just was out there slugging it out during the day, mowing lawns, and at night doing the websites and thinking everything was fine. And at the end of the year, I found out there were a lot of properties that she had never billed. And then when I went to those properties to try to collect, they're just like, well, that's kind of on you. We didn't, like, what do you mean we owe you $1,000 or whatever, right? And it was right in, I think, the beginning of 2008 or 7, maybe, I think 8, when this was happening. And so it's kind of also a little bit of an economic time that wasn't great. And so all those coincided, and I just shut down the landscaping thing. I was like, I can't do this another year. It's also too seasonal, and I didn't have the equipment to do winter work, snow and Christmas and all that kind of stuff.
Dude, that sucks. It happens so many times, man. We take our eye off the prize, and I mean, technically you did the right thing, right? Focus on your job and outsource the rest, but it's the old trust but verify. I just, bookkeepers, accountants, I see that all the stories I've heard. This one guy I know, he almost went out of business. He had and she was on staff, and he had personnel wise, it was a relatively small company, but he had a lot of partners. He was the main guy. It's advertising marketing company. And so he does very good business. And only a few full-time employees. And he got a knock on the door as the IRS, and they go, yeah, you owe $1 million. He's like, what are you talking about? So this lady was keeping 2 sets of books. So she was writing herself checks, getting, funneling them through, cashing them. So he almost went out of business. And trust but verify. So yeah, that sucks. But I guess it was a good thing you had a little side hustle going, huh?
Yeah, it worked out okay to shut that down and focus on the web stuff for the most part. It was a hard lesson, but it did, pretty quick, that actually turned around. So once I did focus on the websites, it's like, oh, this is more lucrative than landscaping and mowing lawns,
Yeah. What was her excuse? I mean, did she feel bad?
She did feel bad, and she was a little bit older. And so she was kind of just like, oh, I'm so sorry. I don't know how it happened. And we were kind of like, I mean, you gave us the map every day to go and mow the lawn, and we came back and gave you the thing that said we mowed it. Like, it was hard. And so, we had to let her go and all that, but there weren't really any hard feelings. It was more just like, I'm screwed. I don't know what to do, kind of.
Were you making some decent revenue on the coding side, or was it still more of like a tinkering kind of hobby?
I was starting to do pretty good there. And actually, it was a perfect storm of one of my website clients. And this is just what a bad business person I was. He kind of, I'm not sure the word for it, but he came in with his like supermodel girlfriend and was like, oh, I need you to do this and that. And I'll wire you the money for it as soon as I get back to Europe and blah, blah, all this, right? I built a bunch of stuff and he never sent the money. And so I turned the sites off and he never contacted me back. So I kind of had a hiccup there at the same time. So that's part of why I was like, okay, I'm doing too many things really poorly right now. Like, all of them are bad, right? The mowing company I'm not looking after, this website project went totally sideways. And on that one, I lost over $20,000 that I had paid my contractors to build stuff by the time I finally pulled the plug. And so between not getting paid for the landscaping work and not getting paid for the website work, which is all completely my fault, right? But doing all that at the same time, it was a full reset for me. But luckily I was just young, enough to bounce back pretty quick from it.
Hmm. Yeah, that's rough, dude. You should have called the sales whisperer.
I know. I know. Had I had better friends at the time.
I'd have said get paid first.
Yeah.
Oh, that's rough, man.
Well,
But it makes you tough, huh?
yeah, I mean, to your point about getting paid first, lesson learned. And then from then on, it was all up front, never, ever had another issue. And I remember one particular client, I won't name, but really high profile. I did a bunch of work for him. It was fantastic. Got a video testimonial, everything. And then I ran across a few people later who were like, oh, wow, like I had a horrible experience. Most people I talked to had a bad experience with them. And as they kind of explained it, I was like, oh, well, I got paid up front because that was the issue, not getting paid in the end. And I was like, well, I got paid up front and everything was hunky dory. Like
Yeah.
everybody was happy.
Funny how that works, huh?
Yeah.
People don't realize, I teach this all the time in my sales training, how, you are not your client. And what I mean by that is just because you see things a certain way, right? And whatever, you like your martinis shaken, not stirred, but the other guy may drink scotch, you know? So it doesn't matter. Like you may be uncomfortable having some of these conversations, but when you need to recognize the buying type, and these hard chargers, they appreciate somebody that's got some game, right? That's got some moxie and has a backbone, right? And says, hey, I'm going to build this. It'll be the best thing ever. I'm going to make you look great. Pay me up front, and because if they can walk all over somebody, they just will. And yeah, they should know better. Yeah, people should have a conscience. But, it's like a pit bull bites somebody. It's like, you're surprised, it's
Yeah.
like, that's what they do. So control the pit bull, know how to approach it, know how to keep your distance, know how to become friends, bring it a treat, rub his belly and everything's fine. But most people, like, oh, it's a big guy. I'm just a lowly nobody. And if you act like it, they're going to walk all over you. And it's unfortunate, but I see it all the time. So that's cool. And were you off and running then? I mean, what was your team like? Were they all contractors? Were you a company by then? Like with an office or what?
Yeah. So I had an office that I was running the web stuff in, and then the Mo would kind of check in there and go out. And so I lost the office, right? All the equipment, all my people, basically I wound back down to zero, just me.
Mm.
And that was good and bad. I think it is what really helped me though for a little while, because I had read a bunch of business books early on and I was young. And so I was like, I'm going to hire people and get them to do things and sell stuff. Right. But I wasn't really connecting the dots. And so when it became just me and I had to sell and fulfill, and do it all, it was good for a little while because it built up my skills. Like I, got much better as a technician and as a salesperson, as a business person, all of it, to where then when I did scale up at some point, I'm really grateful for those early, horrible mistakes that at the time felt like the end of the world. Seriously. I'm grateful for them, because I didn't make those same mistakes again when the stakes were way higher, right? When there's much more on the line. So I'm grateful for screwing up, and I guess I could have also learned from success, but it seems to be the way that I learn.
We all tend to learn a little better from failures, huh?
Yeah, it's hard. It hurts, but
Like they
you
say,
learn.
if you're gonna be dumb, you better be tough.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh man, so that's good. We're both tough, man, and now we're tough and smart, right? Because we figure this stuff out eventually.
Yeah. Too bad we can't also be young when we're tough and smart.
Oh my gosh, I know, man. I know. Oh, well. So you're doing websites and e-commerce and so now you switch over your Infusionsoft from landscaping to what? Did you have a name for your business back then?
Uh, Kind of, yeah. So I had started a site called Infusionsoftvideos .com and was
Oh,
posting like, this is way back in the day, but I was posting like, here's how to integrate GoToWebinar to Infusionsoft or do a one-click upsell, or and it was free. And I would provide even some code like page tracking. And this was so far back that um anyways, it was a while ago. Like even Jermaine Griggs, Infusionsoft called me and asked me to move him to Infusionsoft. They basically said, we got this guy, he needs help. You probably are the most qualified person to help him before the CMAC or whatever program, right? So it kind of just happened that way, that once I picked the specialty and just kind of put my flag there and said, hey, I'm making these helpful Infusionsoft videos, uh, just kind of fill in that gap, I guess. Then they started pushing me a few high profile clients, and that just became more and more high profile clients, which was awesome. Like that stupid little blog, Infusionsoft videos, again, I'm just posting free junk, and a client hired me to come out to England for several days. And while I was there, he invited a bunch of other business owners, and through a workshop that I taught about this stuff. So it's kind of like, you hear that like, oh yeah, just go put out content and good things happen, right? And I know it's not always the case. I've put out content and crickets, but there are those cases where I was really trying to help people. Like I said, I picked that market and it's like, I got to serve these people. And so I was doing it. And as soon as they caught on to it, they started referring me. From London, I went to Vegas with one of his friends and out to Chicago. All these kind of event people were doing it at the time, where they're like, oh, you got to come see my event in order to understand my business, like see me on stage, blah, 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 right? Because they're trying to, get me to buy into their vision. But it was a really unique experience. I'm sure you get this with what you do, where when you talk to a business owner, let's say just like you meet them somewhere, you're having a surface level chat, that's one thing, and they say whatever. But when you go in to evaluate their CRM, which connects to all of their systems, right? Their accounting, their marketing, their website, everything, and you meet their whole team, it's a different level of conversation. So I was fortunate enough to have that with a lot of those people, where they'd say, oh, you need to come in and build my automation for me. Therefore, let me spend a day with you teaching you how I think, right? So these higher level people that would charge their clients a lot for that would pay me to tell me that, so that then I could build their stuff. And it was a win-win, but that's kind of how it progressed. So again, I was really fortunate in that way. And just being in the right niche, where because I'm doing these membership sites and these really famous authors and people like that, speakers are the ones who want them, I got to meet a lot of them.
yeah, that's cool. And then you were the man with the plan at that point, huh? That's
Yeah.
cool. Right place, right time, man. And but I mean, you earned it, right? But you were being early, but going all in, right? At that point, life demanded that you focus, huh?
Yep.
And that's what put you on the top. I mean, hell, if you just all forced my hand, right? I focused solely on them for 8 years or 6 years, 2008 to 2014.
Hmm.
And because people would say, "Oh, how do you sell so much?" It's like no one would ever walk up to you and say, "How do you code so much?" Right? But everybody thinks selling is easy. It's like you're just some meathead, Wes. How do you sell so much? Like I could just tell you, oh, buy me a beer and I'll give you the secret. Right? There's no secret. You just keep doing it and doing it and doing it. And I was making videos too, but you know, I was kind of doing them like you, I guess, but I was just making them for myself, right?
Mm.
So I could help sell it. You were a little more advanced in how you were using it and helping others, because man, that stuff was so new to me. I struggled so much. So I was literally just making videos as I found the answers. I'm like, fire. Oh, let me show you how to make fire. What do you do with fire? Ow, I don't know. It hurts. I don't, let's go see what we can do with it. Right? Like, hey, you can cook marshmallows. So I make a video, just boom, boom, boom. And there we go. But I was doing the same thing, all free. My membership site was my mastermind was, it was just free. It was, if you bought Infusionsoft from me, then you could participate in my weekly calls. And really it was not much more than me just answering questions on a group call and just showing them how I use Infusionsoft and giving them some tips and tricks. So those are the good old days when we could still use Infusionsoft's name, right? You remember when they cracked down on copyright and like we had to just kill off all these
my
names.
gosh.
Oh,
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. Mine was Infusionsoft videos, and they're like, you can't do that. And I'm like, but it's free and it helps your customers. Like, really? But it's all good. I was going to say, yeah, in those days, I think I probably heard about you for a couple years before I finally met you, because you wrote the book on Infusionsoft, right? And all of that. So
yeah, I
we're in the
wrote it. I wrote
same,
that in 2012.
yeah, man, we were in the same like circles before we kind of got together and got to know each other.
Small world. All right. So then you get, so how do you end up doing membership sites?
So at first, my business was geared around Infusionsoft's, websites is kind of what I called it, because I was putting order forms into them in web forms. But people took that to mean, oh, I want to protect a page. Like I'm selling this ebook or videos, whatever. I want to protect them. And at the time, they're just, people were maybe building that custom, but there was no plugin for it. And so I first built a Joomla plugin, and that it's a system similar to WordPress. Most people don't know it now. And I dabbled in other ones like Drupal and probably some I don't remember, but and it built some also custom, like actual hard code, protected pages and so forth. But WordPress was just the winner. Over time, that's what everybody wanted. And I think it's almost like how Google won the search war. Once they start winning, they just keep winning.
Yeah.
More developers are in there, more designers are in there, and therefore more customers want it because there's more plugins and templates. So
yeah, cool. And then is it a good business still? And I ask that because I see things, Gumroad, and I mean, even Fiverr, you can put a business, a training course up there. There's all these things now, a lot more competition. So are you still liking that space, or there are still benefits to somebody doing it on their own, their own WordPress installation versus, outsourcing it to a third party?
So yeah, it's a great question. Our main competition is from what we refer to as like true SaaS platforms like Thinkific or Teachable or something. But those are really kind of for a beginner. And some people make a lot of money on them. But what I mean there is you can go and you can put your stuff on there, but pretty much you're promoting Teachable, right? And they're taking a cut and all that sort of stuff. Whereas the people who want to control everything about their site, maybe they're a little bit more technical because they're willing to deal with WordPress rather than just, I'm going to log into a portal and I don't want to see any code. I don't want to see any settings. I just want to put my content in and see my customers, right? The other people who do want to control some of it and they want to say, well, it needs to be on brand, or I want mine to be a little bit special and unique. I want to stand out because I'm organizing my members into little subgroups with team captains and they're accomplishing, goals or quests or tasks together and blah, 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 right? So the people who try to leverage it a little bit more, they prefer WordPress. And there are a lot of beginners there because WordPress does attract beginners because it's free, but most of the sites are pretty complex. One of my friends I was talking to this morning, he's in London, has kind of a financial focused membership site, but they do several million a year, thousands of members. And he was basically saying, he's tried lots of things and he only ever wants to use Memberium and WordPress because for him to be able to do one little extra thing and stand out from the next guy is worth so much, right? It's worth hiring whoever. So that's kind of the market we're in, is people do want a little more customization. And what we're up against is those done for you cool platforms like that. They are getting more customizable over time. So But I do like the space. I like it for a lot of fundamental reasons, meaning because WordPress is such a community of developers, I don't think anything else will ever be able to keep up with it. I mean, there's thousands of plugins and thousands of themes and more all the time, and more people joining. So I will say though, like to your real question, like, is it still a good space? There's definitely a lot more WordPress plugins too, right? So not just those SaaS, but yeah, it's very competitive. But it's almost for us. I don't know. We like the challenge. We like the game. We like our clients. We like what they're doing. So it's fulfilling, I guess.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, when you're, it's kind of like when I bought Infusionsoft, in 2008, it was $5,000 down. It was $299 a month for 5 user licenses. And I was like, holy crap, it's just me, but I saw the vision, where I wanted to go. I'd already been in business about 2 years, was kind of struggling with, duct taping things together. Didn't have a website, didn't have e-commerce. People had to bring me checks. But I saw the power of that automation and everything. And sometimes you just got to jump in the deep end. Right. And yeah, okay, Gumroad's free, put it up there. They take, I think, 10%, but now you're linking to a Gumroad URL, right? It's not your URL. It's like, I don't recommend people usually use a Keep landing page, because it's some other URL. You're hurting your SEO. Yes, it can go up quickly. Sometimes it's fine if it's just a one-off kind of thing, but I like owning all of my stuff. See people all the time get burned on social media, like they got big accounts and just are shut down. They're like, and no recourse, nobody to talk to. Like, dude, you built on borrowed land, like,
Yeah.
sorry, dude. So
yeah, man.
that's cool.
Lately I've been talking to my kids and then some of my friends who have no business whatsoever, right? And when they ask like, oh, how can I do this? I'm like, get a domain name, start building your own email list. I don't want a YouTube following. I don't want like none of that is actual wealth, but your own domain ranking, your own email list, that's actual wealth, or it's something that can be converted into it, But like you're saying, I've seen just too many times to even care about any of the platforms. And not only their account might get locked, but what's just as bad is the algorithm could change and they could just become irrelevant. Like the same work could produce so much less views overnight arbitrarily, right?
Yeah. I know it happens all the time. People think it won't happen to them. So it's like, bite the bullet, get your own installation going and own it. So
yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. I've been so removed from WordPress, so end of 2014, I bought HubSpot. Then I think it took a year and I moved my websites over to HubSpot. But like they all change, right? All these platforms, they change. And, but they grandfathered me in. So, I had at the time, I think it was $400 a month, and I got at a discount of $300 a month for like all of my domains.
Nice.
Hosting, right?
Nice.
Hosting 24/7 support and hosting. Now it's like $400 or $500 or $600 a month per domain. So I can't give that advice to new people anymore. So I'm like, hey, go check out WordPress. It's like, I'm not on it. I started on it, and I was good because I was like you. I had to Google University, man. It's just, holy crap, self-teach myself. And actually, you know what I do? I support one, maybe two, forget. I got one friend, he's an attorney, and he's helped me a lot. So I helped him build a little website. So about once a year, I log into WordPress and update his plugins. he doesn't even use his site. I tried to give him back his domain, right? Because this guy knows nothing. Best attorney you'll ever meet in your entire life. Oxford educated, Pepperdine. I mean, just a freaking bulldog genius. But like we all have our areas of expertise, right? He's 10 years older than me, so he's in his 60s, and so he's not going to learn technology. And I'm like, dude, call GoDaddy, let me transfer the ownership of the URL to you. I only pay $9 a year, but I'm like, you need to own your assets, right? Like, what if you piss me off one day and I just want to steal your website? I mean, a little 5-page website you never visits. But I'm like, it's the principle of the thing. I tell everybody, own your stuff. He's like, I don't know how to do that. I'm like, fine, I'll pay it. We meet like once a month for drinks, and it's all good.
Dude, I still control a few domains that I'd rather not control for the same reason. I know exactly what you mean.
But same thing, I've seen people get burned. Like, they come to me like, hey, can you help me? And I'm like, yeah, can you make me an admin? I'll go check things out. And they're like, yeah, we can't do that. What do you mean? Yeah, we don't control our website.
Yeah, that's not good.
And dude, I had this just last year. I had a client, they're on HubSpot. Well, they wanted to switch to HubSpot, so I helped them switch. I told them not to switch, but they wanted to switch. And they're big, growing company, but run by some young dudes in their 20s, but it's just, they got a tiger by the tail. And some guru consultant they had, said, oh, you should get on HubSpot. I'm like, okay. So I said no. But then I said, if you for sure want to, fine, I will sell it to you. I'll help you get it set up. I don't think you need it, but we did it. Fine. And I'm like, this was just last year, man, like last summer.
Mm.
And I'm like, well, it was in the spring that they got started. And then I'm like, let me help you with the website. And this guy wouldn't hand over the site. And they may not still have access a year later. And this company's rapidly growing. They're a $50 million company. Don't have control of their own website. So it still happens.
Yeah.
It's
That's
unbelievable.
scary. Well, I'll say, oh, go ahead.
No, what you got?
I was going to say, yeah, that is something for WordPress generally, right? If people, let's say they have a blog and they've been posting on it for a long time, instead of having to convert it, just the ability to say, hey, some of these are paid posts now, and I still keep all that SEO, right? I don't have to mess with it. So yeah, it's that ownership, it's that SEO value, like the public content appeal and how you can share that. And I know HubSpot does that too. A lot of platforms do, but it's just so easy and cheap to own it. And WordPress is so robust. If WordPress didn't exist, like imagine what that software would cost, what it costs in other forms, right? It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, for sure. No, nobody's perfect, but hey, what they were offering at the time for the price point was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a lot of glitches. I think they fell prey to some of the marketing hype, right? And it shouldn't have been $5,000 down back in 2008. Dan Kennedy, hypnotized them. People were paying it. I was about to pay it, and I found the glitch in the matrix of their partner program. That was a big savings for me.
Yeah.
But they've been paying for that ever since. I mean, they got too big, right? Too big, too fast, thinking they were just going to exit and make a killing, and it didn't happen. But let's talk about membership sites. Like well, instead of who should have one, who shouldn't have a membership site? Can anybody, any industry benefit from having a membership site?
Absolutely. So I've said for a long time, every business should have a membership site. And what I mean there is, even if you just use it for internal training, even if it just becomes your business's, mind, basically digital mind, where you're storing information like policies, procedures, training, whatever, so that new employees, it starts to give you leverage, where when you hire somebody now, the training is within your membership site rather than in your head or in your supervisor's head or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So from that perspective, absolutely. And then within that, basically anybody who has customers, a membership site isn't just about selling content like Netflix or Prime or Disney. It's about a place for them to log in, view their account, update their payment information, their mailing address, whatever, so that is not an admin task. So they're not sending an email or calling in, or you're having to chase them down for it. So there's a lot of automation tied to the membership site. I mentioned billing, for example, if somebody's on a subscription, the type of stuff where, hey, your credit card failed, click here to update it. The update it automatically picks back up and unlocks things. So it's for account management, for contact management, to have a place for somebody to log in, basically, if you don't have that already, is a starting point. And then within that, doing sales within a membership site is great. So even if you're not a business that's going to sell content or sell a community or sell a membership, you could give away access to a membership. And let's say it's, a car dealership or something that, people don't really need a membership, but they could give a membership for something that appeals to a type of buyer, right? And then within that, sell the cars. So, hey, get access to this and you can view all of our manufacturing data, dealer data, specs, blah, 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 get nerdy with your car. And then of course, the whole time you're serving ads to them, you're trying to get them to buy a car. So a lot of people do that too, right? They're really just looking for, you could call a free membership level just a lead. And then they're consuming content in the members area. Therefore, you can track what they're consuming and doing and better market to them versus them consuming it elsewhere that you can't track as well. So there's, so when you say, does every business need a membership site? It's like, yes, for internal training, yes, for sales and marketing. And then anything over time that you can collect, any expertise that you can package up into something and sell, that's just extra leverage and revenue and, for the business, obviously, but it's also good positioning where you can say, hey, not only do we, we sell all this stuff or whatever, we have created courses. We're so passionate about this. We have created a certification program for consultants in this area. We're so passionate about this. So, that the merchandise on our shelves is top tier because we're experts, right? So it's positioning as well.
Yeah. And I know just personally, like I've got some groups on Facebook, and it's nice in that it's free and it's easy to get people on there, but it's a pain updating content. Finding content. Once I create files and upload them, they've made some progress over the years. You can reorder things, because I've retooled some of my old coaching programs, and but it still, if I ever get kicked off or, I've gotten better, but I've been banned for a week, banned for a month.
I was going to say, knowing you, I'd be surprised if you hadn't already.
So, but and to a degree, it affects what you can do in a group, even groups you own. So like, you got to be careful, on pissing off certain people. So at least when you own your own membership site, it's like, hey, I'll say whatever I want to say. But it's also easier to update. Replace a file. You got a newer version of a file, just replace it, and it populates and pushes out everywhere it's supposed to be. So, there's little things like that at the end of the day end up not being all that little. And so, people forget when the product is free, then you're the product, so figure out how to take control of things. But do you have free trials? Do you have tutorials? Because what I've seen with any technology, like when I'm selling Infusionsoft and HubSpot, people, they can't even envision what their life could be like with this new thing, right? Like, Henry Ford, why don't you ask the consumer what they want? So, if I asked them what they want, they'd say they wanted a faster horse. Right. So people that don't have the vision, and I see it in real estate, I've invested for years. My son's a realtor now, and most people can't see through torn up carpet or termites or whatever, house that needs a new roof. They can't see, okay, for $10,000 and 30 days of inconvenience, you can make $50,000. Right. They can't see it. So, okay, fine. Look, I'll do it. You come back, you pay 50 grand more. Deal. So how do you help people even see the vision of, the power and the potential of having a membership site?
So one of the things that we do, I think, probably it sounds right, but it turns out it is our most successful approach, is we try to do a lot of case studies, and a lot of testimonials, because we can talk about features, but all softwares have features. What we're trying to do is put a human element to our cold software, because our software, it doesn't even look like anything. It's middleware, it's integration. It doesn't. People will say, well, what will my site look like? And we say, well, it doesn't change the way your site looks like. All it does is pass data. Like, it's boring, right? It's technical conversation. And so we try to warm that up by basically being like, oh, look at Ariel, look at her success, look at how happy her customers are, look at this person and his success and how happy his customers are. And the real, like, one of the sweetest and like perfect scenarios there is one of our customers in Australia, one of their clients. So they built a course, and somebody who used their course is a 15-year-old kid who, because of their course, is already a millionaire and bought himself a Tesla. And as soon as he gets his license, he'll start driving it around. And so that story, that like personal appeal of, you've thought about a membership site. Well, like, look what's possible. You can be changing other people's lives while changing your life. So that's kind of the approach I feel we take to it. Some people are coming to us for technical reasons, right? Hey, I use WordPress and Keep, and somebody told me this is the plugin for that. That's an easy sell. But otherwise, and even those people, even the people who are already good at it, I feel like those case studies help. And the reason I say we know that they are a part of it is so many of the questions we've gotten are, hey, I want to do what so-and-so did in this video. And so a lot of it, we come to find, oh, it's because they're watching these, and then they kind of see themselves being able to do it because so-and-so is real and normal. Like in the interview, we talk about that a little bit, and it's just some random person who put themselves out there and was successful and smart and did a good job, right? And so, yeah, that is the main approach. We don't do free trials for our software. We've toyed with the idea, but where we provide really high-end support, we're well known for our high-end support. We kind of figured we want serious people. Like, we'd rather them pay $47 and light a fire under them to finish their site than them, take a trial and screw around with it. And so far, so good. And I've talked to other people.
Well,
WordPress
$47, let's be honest, it's nothing. I mean,
no,
they dropped that at happy hour on a Tuesday.
yeah, and it's a full money back guarantee too. So we do say, hey, no trial, but give us the 47 and we'll give it back if you don't like it. Same thing.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
And it's true. You gotta have some skin in the game.
Mm-hmm.
People they don't pay attention. So yeah, and that's just so cheap. How can you do it for so cheap? Shouldn't it be 97 or 147 or 197?
Yeah, I mean, we're probably going to be raising prices here, but a couple of things. One, it is a plugin that does live on their server, so we don't have posting costs related.
Nice.
And so we understand that, hey, they're buying our plugin, plus they also have to buy hosting, right? They've got other costs. But we are going to increase the price. I'll tell you, in the very beginning, when we were selling it at 37, which really isn't a big difference, but so let's even call it 47. It wasn't making money. I was doing so much consulting work in order to get the first 10 customers, 20, 50, 100. But I believed in the idea of, oh, once we get into the thousands, all of this makes sense. So I just honestly slogged it out for at least 3 years, pretty hard. But what that also did, because I was often doing that consulting for those same customers, so they'd come in and pay 47 a month, but then they might pay me a couple $100 for some setup time, right? So it kind of helped that initial thing to be selling that time, but it also made a lot of those customers really big fans, and they were properly onboarded, right? Because I helped them do it myself. And so they stuck around for years. We didn't really, I mean, I remember when we very first got a cancellation, we were like 2 or 3 years in, and we were so surprised. We were like, why would anyone leave? That's crazy,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because once these get built, they really do. They're self-sustaining, and update a couple files, some regulations change, new models come out. Okay, update the PDF, push it back out. Uh, you know, but yeah, it happens. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool. So you're finally branching out into other ecosystems. Did you say Active Campaign?
So we do have an integration to Active Campaign. It's been around maybe 5 years or so.
Oh, okay.
But it hasn't quite caught on the same. I mean, obviously we had a big following the Keep Space, and we knew a lot of partners who helped us. And Active Campaign just doesn't seem to have the same partner ecosystem, because if they did, we would go. I mean, they do have a partner ecosystem, but not like Keeps, where they get together physically annually, where you get to meet everybody conveniently, frequently. When Active Campaign did have an event, we went out and sponsored as much as we could. We kind of bought out what we could and were present, but they only did it once, and then they haven't quite returned to that scale of events. So
Yeah.
we feel like that is the future market, to an extent. But yeah, it's just hard to get in touch with all of them so far.
Yeah, that was like, how do you pick? Are you considering others? Does HubSpot make sense? Does Entreport make sense? I think Entreport kind of has its own membership thing, huh?
Yeah. The way that we picked Active Campaign is, when people were leaving Membarium, they were leaving Membarium because they were leaving Keep, and we were just connected to it. And
Yeah.
so when we started surveying them, a lot of them said, "Oh, I'm going to Active Campaign." So we built that as a natural, like, okay, you don't have to leave, you just convert, right? And so the next one on that list was HubSpot. And I don't know if you know, but Dave built a solution for HubSpot, but he kind of didn't, what do I want to say? It wasn't what he hoped it could be, due to some things on their end with the API and some of their policy changes, just like we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Like which versions came with API and not, and how much it cost, and how the API functioned. A lot of that changed midstream. So I think he just kind of wasn't as fun as he thought it would be, right?
Yeah.
But we have plans to move some of the work he was doing there in the future, hopefully. So Membarium will probably connect to HubSpot and other things, in the future. I actually know what it will connect to, but I'm not at liberty to say just yet.
Sure. Yeah.
But,
And you're going to
until
stick with membership sites? I mean, are there other natural spinoffs you could get into, or are you just keeping the focus?
the spinoff that I want to get into is that internal training idea. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the company Trainual.
No.
So we used them for a little while. Basically it's a membership site, but just for your company. So it's like, hey, where do you put your policies and procedures? Well, it's a Google Doc. Where do you put and they're saying, no, put it all in here. It's your training manual for your company, Trainual, right? And there are some elements of it that are smart and good and cool, but I was dumbfounded at how successful they were and how many clients they got, because it is from my perspective as an advanced membership site builder, it's minimum. It's like they're giving very little, but because it's wrapped around a smart concept and well branded, and they do a good job of marketing, like they're smart. I like them. I'm not throwing shade. I'm saying they really only have to deliver so much to do what those clients need. And so I feel like that's a space we could get into and provide that basic solution, but also provide all the advanced stuff that people would want,
Yeah. I mean, they just came out with that MVP, huh? The minimum viable products. Okay, let's go to market with that.
Yeah. Yeah. And in good marketing, you probably find it interesting. They've got some of the characters from the show The Office
Oh, yeah.
to do some of their commercials and things like that. And it's
Well,
pretty funny stuff, actually.
would you say, like, if somebody's looking at sales enablement, that's a buzzword. Is that where like an internal membership site would come in, where they could just have a repository? So, marketing can upload it, salespeople can easily find it, grab it, and deploy it.
That kind of that to me almost is like project management, a little bit internal workflow. And it might be a little too different from my understanding, and maybe I'm wrong about that, but for me, that sounds a little more complicated than what I want to do. I don't know if that makes any sense or not.
Yeah, but I mean, I see it the way I approach sales enablement is just like the name sounds, giving the tools the salespeople need, right, to enable them to deploy the right assets, to stay true to the corporate message, uh, and have it at their fingertips. So really, I mean, it's not project management at all.
I see.
It's,
I see. Yeah.
saying, hey, here's the new PDF, here's the new roadmap, here's our new pricing structure, right?
Mhm.
So it's easy for the salespeople to find instead of like, oh, it's on the Google Drive or where it's embedded back in our Salesforce somewhere or something like that.
Right.
Or constantly having to email an assistant or somebody, where's the latest manual on this? Where's the white paper? I want to send to a customer. So, I mean, that's how I view sales enablement. So maybe that's an angle, maybe we should
Ye-
be talking.
That's right. Yeah, you're 100% right about that. And I kind of took the question a little bit differently, but actually sales teams are one of the better, I think, internal training targets. One of the first internal training sites I did was for a sales team where the CEO basically just like turned the phone on him and had him answer all these questions, put that into the membership site for the sales team, right? Because they
Yeah,
were starting to grow and scale their sales team, and he wanted them to be on message. So he like made a short
right.
video about each core value, made a video about here's how we're going to answer this, here's how we're going to answer that. And
Yes.
it was so good because it got an elegant answer. Like when somebody asked this question about price, instead of answering with the price question, explain this and that first, right? Like do the proper sales steps. And it was a highly leverageable internal training site. So yeah, you're a million percent right. Yeah, sorry, I was not
Yeah, man,
understanding
we
at
should we
first.
should talk because there's a thing too. I'll show you when we're done. But you got to have like the enterprise level and a plugin or whatever on
Mm,
HubSpot for a thing they call playbooks.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
but it sounds kind of it's kind of like what you're talking about there with that CEO just recording himself and the team being able to look it up.
Mm,
Playbooks can walk the sales team, run this play. If they say this, do that, so having some flow charts, if you will, for this objection. And, I've got my sales training flashcards. I've got objections and how to reply to these objections.
mm-hmm.
I think there's something there you could plug in and, uh, at $47 plus the cost of your, server space, you got to pay 3,600 a month for HubSpot's version, to run that.
Right. Well, and like picturing what that is, it's just going to be access to some content, right? It's not rocket science. It's not programming or functionality. It's just content control.
Yeah, right. So we have a lot of potential here, Mr. Micah.
I know.
I like where this is going.
Sales, memberships.
Make it happen. So cool, man. So we talked about pricing. So the website is member, IUM, right? Memberium.com.
Mm-hmm.
And people go there. You're going to cookie them. You're going to spam them. You're going to hound them. You're going to ding their credit if they don't buy, right? It's just a total mess, right? You're just like a stalker predator. I mean, that's how you grow.
Well, since we're a software company, when they visit our site, we're going to automatically download all of their personal information, like scan all the papers in their house, automatically somehow.
I know, man. That's my dirty little secret. That's how I keep the lights on, just back.
No, yeah,
Uh,
come to membarium.com and ask us any sort of question about membership sites. We didn't get into it much, but we've got a lot of multi-million-dollar kind of membership sites, and we've interviewed them. So if you have any sort of question about how should I approach this or that, combination of products or whatever, we'd be happy to help you out, even if you're not using Membarium. So feel free to drop us a line.
yeah, I know. And that's what you do, man. Just a laid back, cool dude helping people. That's why I'm glad you finally, after 600 plus episodes, made it to the show. So, thanks for carving out time, man.
Yeah. Well, can I throw you a question here? Flip the
Oh,
script and ask one.
hey, if it's bad, I'll just delete it. But if it's like really good, I'll promote it. Yeah.
Well, I want to know how the sales whisperer would sell Membarium to people. What would be the approach?
Dude, I think we hit on it, right? Uh, Several things. So one is just building on land that you own. So, having a free Facebook group is fine, but you don't own it. And people get distracted. Can you get them off that platform and focus? Right. So there's one. Two, it's easier to update, easier to keep documents up to date. I think it's an internal tool for sales enablement. I think it's a great portal for onboarding new people. Make sure you keep the messaging, like you said, coherent. And you know, anybody can use it, right? A chiropractor could have uh, a home study course, or they sell it on stretching, alleviating back pain without surgery. Here's three stretches, 10 stretches to do for your back. Here's 7 stretches to do for sciatica. Here's a guide on alleviating migraines, foods to avoid, eyeglasses to wear on your computer. So all of that could be on a portal that you own. I think, like I was saying, people don't even know the potential. I think once you open their eyes to what's possible, you have a tiger by the tail. They're just off and running.
Mm,
And you absolutely could charge more. I would say you should charge more. 47 is just really nothing. Uh, in some ways, the lower price may be hurting you
yeah.
because people might think it's not robust enough. Like, we're too big and powerful and mighty. We need a $147 plug-in. I mean, people are silly. They do equate. And I saw a thing that they did a study. They put all the electrodes and stuff on people's brain, and they can monitor like pleasure receptors and whatever parts of the brain. And they gave them 2 glasses of wine, right? And one, they're like, hey, here's a $10 bottle, whatever, from the grocery store. Here's a $400 a bottle fancy stuff, from Napoleon's, wine cellar. And their electrodes, whatever, pleasure receptors, exploded for the $400 bottle. And then they revealed, oh, it's the same $10 bottle. They're like, oh crap. But
Mm,
because they thought it was something more special, they got more pleasure from it. So I mean, that's how humans are. So,
mm.
consider some ways to raise the price. And, you don't have to price yourself out of the market, but $47 is nothing. And I know y'all help people, right? So as they get on board and they see the support and you help them, give them ideas to make more and more money, that, they won't think twice about 47 or 57 or $77.
Yeah. I
But
appreciate
yeah,
that.
everybody can do it. My jujitsu instructor, I've had my son, different kids. One played the trombone and he had private lessons. One did soccer. She got private goalie lessons. One did football. He had batting practice. We got him a fitness coach. All of those entities could have had a membership site,
Yeah,
you know,
that's true.
but people, they just don't think about it. It's just not on the horizon. It's just not in their realm of possibilities, so that's why, I've got a free, training thing I give away to people called Process Before Login. And I walk them through. I'm like, what is your current plus your ideal process for whatever, right? Because when I talk to people, it's like that your biggest pain is pre-sale or post-sale. Right. So you start talking to them, try to figure out what it is. Are you losing leads? Are you not following up in time? Or do you not have a standard verbiage, cadence, playbook? Everybody winging it? Do you have set pipeline stages with documented steps that must occur to move from one stage to the next? Blah, blah, blah. So as you walk through that, you say, okay, what's your current process? What's your ideal process? Because that's what they don't realize. It's like, what if, you could fire off a text message or have chocolates mailed, a gift. What if this could be, initial part could be outsourced to a third party that did the dialing or whatever, right? And they're like, whoa, you can do that?
Mm.
It's the old joke, you see your accountant buried in paper and he's got, pencil stubs all over and the kindling, whatever, from sharpening the pencil and, P&L spreadsheets everywhere. It's like, dude, why don't you use a calculator? He looks up from the pile. He's like, I'm too busy doing all this stuff by hand to get up and leave and go to the store and buy a calculator.
Hmm.
It's like, dude, take you 25 minutes to run down to Walmart, get a calculator from the, CVS drugstore, that you'll be so much faster, but they're just head down, so I'm always telling people early on, it's like, detach, have this out of body experience and look around and notice what you notice what ads you notice. Ask yourself, why am I doing this right now? A, does it have to be done at all? B, if it has to be done, does it have to be done by you? C, does it have to be done right now? And start figuring out, what can you give away? What can you give away? I tell people all the time, look at what you do. If you do something 2 or 3 times a day or 4 or 5 times a week, you better have it documented. You better have a process for it. And you better figure out, can you automate it? Can you delegate it? And that's how you scale. So if a company's, if salespeople are always looking around, hey, where's this? Where's this? 5 times a week, you're answering the question, helping somebody find something. You better have a process for it. Put that thing on a server somewhere, label it, make sure everybody knows how to get it. So long answer to your question.
No, I appreciate it though. It's always good to get out of your own head, So
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's why I tell people too, right? That's how you and I come in, bring value, because they're like, I'm in the left-handed albino alpaca business. Have you ever worked with left-handed albino alpacas? I'm like, no, but that's a good thing, because I'm going to bring a different perspective. Well, I ask some questions. Yeah, sometimes you need a left-handed albino alpacas, to nail down exactly what the issue is. Sometimes you're stuck in a rut because everybody's doing what everybody does. Sometimes you need an outsider to go, what the hell's going on? I made a post not too long ago. My mom was out. She was out, I guess it was January. Golly, it's already been a few months. Because I had to travel for a client in December. She was coming out early. She comes out like middle of December and then goes to my sister's because she lives close for Christmas Day, right? So she didn't come out until January. And I've had this coffee maker. So we have a Keurig and we have just a regular Cuisinart pot, coffee maker. So, and every morning, I make the coffee and, I set it the night before. And, we were talking about like strong coffee and blah, blah, blah. And my mom, she looked at the coffee maker and goes, do you ever brew it strong? I'm like, what are you talking about? And there was only like 5 buttons on the front of my coffee maker. And we've had this coffee maker, I don't know, at least 5 years. I mean, this thing's durable. It's just a cheap, I mean, it's probably a $20 or $30 coffee maker. It ain't nothing fancy. And like literally 5 buttons. And one of the buttons was strong. I never read it. I was like, there's a programming button, there's a brew button, you know, and there's a delay button. So those were the ones that I needed. So that's all I used. So I needed my mom, you know, an outside disinterested third party with fresh eyes to go, you can brew strong coffee. You know? Damn it. Right. Fresh eye. I took a picture. I did a little Facebook post about it. And and our damn Keurig has a strong button also.
So what were you doing before? Just drinking 2 cups?
Well, I still drink the same amount. I just drink it stronger.
Nice.
But yeah, even the Keurig, right? So when you pour the water in, you lift the thing, you put the cup in, and you shut it, right? It punctures the cup. Well, so now there's a couple of buttons, coffee or latte or whatever. So I go coffee, and then there's a circular thing with the sizes, right? 6, 8, 10, 12, whatever ounces. So you hit that, and then you hit start. Well, before you do that, off to the side is a button for strong. So I think it just drips slower, right? So it pulls more out of that Keurig, that K cup.
Gotcha.
But both of them had a strong. So right after my mom did that, I looked at the Keurig. I go, holy crap! There's a strong button on the Keurig tube. You know, but my point is, getting an outsider with fresh eyes, you need to do that every now and then, right? Get the guru. You know, I've helped 12 million left-handed albino alpaca farmers break the $100 million threshold. Okay, get that guy. But he's probably busy and very expensive, and he may not be able to get around to you for a year. So instead, you know, bring you and me in, you know, for a day or a week, and we'll give a fresh perspective in the meantime.
And make lots of jokes.
We'll have fun doing it, you know? Nobody ever says they're bored with me.
That's fair. That's very fair.
And you know, I may be full of shit, but there's some wisdom in those words, right? You just gotta wait for the whole story to come out. Let it percolate on strong.
That's right.
All right, Micah. Memberium.com. Thanks for coming on the show, man. It's been great catching up with you. Finally.
Thanks for having me, man.
Have a good one.
You too.